Every single day, nearly 170,000 people die around the world. Yet despite thousands of years of human history, one question still refuses to disappear. What actually happens after you die? Does everything instantly go black? Does your brain keep working? Can you still hear people around you? And why do some people who are declared clinically dead return with vivid memories? Today, we're separating science from speculation. Everything you'll hear in this video is based on modern medical research, not myths, not movies, and not internet rumors. Let's begin with the exact moment your heart stops. Imagine you're standing in a hospital room. Doctors are trying everything possible. Suddenly, your heart stops beating. From a medical perspective, this is called cardiac arrest. Unlike a heart attack, where blood flow to part of the heart is blocked, cardiac arrest means the heart suddenly stops pumping blood altogether. Without blood circulation, oxygen can no longer reach the brain or other vital organs. Within seconds, your blood pressure collapses. The oxygen level reaching your brain drops dramatically. And the brain, an organ that consumes about 20% of the body's oxygen while making up only about 2% of its weight, begins running out of the fuel it needs to function. Here's something many people don't realize. Death is not a switch that flips instantly. It's a process. For a few seconds after cardiac arrest, the brain may still contain enough oxygen and stored energy for some neurons to continue functioning briefly. As circulation stops, consciousness is usually lost rapidly because the brain is no longer receiving oxygen-rich blood. This is why doctors treat cardiac arrest as a race against time. Every passing second reduces the chance of survival. Surprisingly, no. For decades, scientists assumed that once the heart stopped, the brain shut down almost immediately. But newer research has shown the reality is more complex. Advanced brain monitoring studies during resuscitation have detected organized electrical activity in some patients during CPR. These findings do not prove that consciousness continues after death, but they do show that the dying brain may remain biologically active for longer than once believed in certain circumstances. That discovery has completely changed how scientists think about the boundary between life and death. It's important to understand one thing. When doctors first say someone has clinically died, it means the heart has stopped. Blood circulation has stopped. The person isn't breathing on their own. But clinical death is not always irreversible. If CPR or a defibrillator restores circulation quickly enough, some people can survive and recover. Only after prolonged lack of circulation causes irreversible damage do doctors consider death permanent. So, if the brain doesn't necessarily become inactive the instant the heart stops, what is actually happening inside your head during those final moments? The answer is stranger than most people imagine, because the next 60 seconds inside the dying brain may be the most mysterious minute in all of human biology. Your heart has stopped. Blood is no longer carrying oxygen to your brain. But inside your skull, billions of brain cells are still fighting to survive. The human brain is an incredible machine. Even though it weighs only about 1.4 kilograms, it contains roughly 86 billion neurons, all communicating through tiny electrical signals. The moment oxygen disappears, those neurons don't instantly die. Instead, they begin a desperate countdown. For several seconds, the brain uses the last remaining oxygen and glucose stored inside its cells. As these energy reserves are exhausted, neurons gradually lose their ability to communicate, and normal brain function starts to break down. This is why loss of consciousness happens so quickly after cardiac arrest. Scientists once believed the brain simply switched off, but research over the last decade suggests something far more complex. In some patients undergoing CPR after cardiac arrest, researchers have recorded brief periods of organized brain activity. Other laboratory studies have also observed a phenomenon called terminal spreading depolarization, a wave of electrical failure that travels across the brain when its energy supply is exhausted. This isn't evidence that a person is consciously thinking after death. Instead, it appears to be part of the brain's final biological response as cells lose the energy needed to maintain normal electrical balance. Researchers are still studying exactly what these signals mean. One of the most disturbing questions is, can a dying person still hear the people around them? The honest scientific answer is, we don't know for certain. However, there's an interesting clue. Studies using EEG have shown that some patients who are deeply unresponsive can still display brain responses to familiar sounds or voices. Other research suggests hearing may be among the senses that can remain active relatively late in the dying process in some people. That doesn't prove conscious awareness, but it is one reason many doctors, nurses, and hospice workers encourage families to continue speaking calmly and lovingly to dying relatives. Even if we can't be certain they understand, those words may still matter. Then there's another mystery. Every year, people who are successfully resuscitated after cardiac arrest describe experiences that sound remarkably similar. Some report floating above their bodies. Others describe moving through a dark tunnel. Many speak of an intense bright light. Some even describe a profound sense of peace or a rapid life review. Scientists call these near-death experiences, or NDEs. These reports have been documented in medical literature for decades, but there is no scientific consensus that they prove consciousness continues after death. Researchers have proposed several possible explanations, including reduced oxygen reaching the brain, changes in carbon dioxide levels, activity in brain regions involved in memory and visual perception, the release of naturally occurring brain chemicals during extreme stress. At the same time, no single theory explains every reported experience. So for now, the phenomenon remains one of medicine's biggest unanswered questions. This is where it's important to separate evidence from belief. Science can measure heart activity, brain waves, oxygen levels, cellular changes. But science cannot currently determine whether consciousness continues after the brain permanently stops functioning. That question remains outside what current scientific evidence can answer. Different religions, cultures, and philosophies offer different answers, but they are matters of faith rather than established scientific fact. So, while the brain is fighting its final battle, something else is already beginning. Every organ in your body starts shutting down one by one. And over the next few hours, your body will go through a series of changes so precise that forensic scientists can estimate when a person died almost down to the hour. We'll follow the human body hour by hour after death and reveal what really happens next. The first hour, your heart has stopped. Your brain is no longer able to control the body. Now, the body begins changing in ways that no one can stop. At first, these changes are almost invisible. The muscles relax completely. Your jaw may fall open. Your eyelids may not stay fully closed. Because the heart is no longer pumping blood, oxygen can no longer reach the organs. One by one, cells begin to lose the energy needed to stay alive. This isn't mysterious. It's basic biochemistry. The cells turn against themselves. But perhaps the most fascinating process happens at the microscopic level. Every cell in your body contains powerful digestive enzymes. While you're alive, cell membranes keep these enzymes safely contained. After death, those membranes begin to break down. The enzymes start digesting the very cells that once protected them. Scientists call this process autolysis, meaning self-digestion. It's one of the earliest stages of decomposition. Your body isn't being attacked from the outside yet. It's beginning to break itself down from within. Nature takes over. Then, another hidden world awakens. Your body is home to trillions of microorganisms, especially in the intestines. During life, the immune system and normal body functions keep these microbes in balance. After death, as those systems stop working, bacteria begin breaking down tissues. This is a natural part of decomposition and helps recycle organic matter back into the environment. It may sound unsettling, but this process is essential to Earth's natural cycle of life. Nothing in nature is wasted. A new beginning. From the outside, death appears to be an ending. But from a biological perspective, it's also the beginning of a transformation. Every atom that once made up a living person remains part of nature. Over time, those same elements become part of the air, the soil, plants, animals, and eventually new life. In nature, nothing truly disappears. It simply changes form. But one mystery still remains. If the body follows such a predictable biological process, why do thousands of people who are brought back to life describe experiences that feel more real than reality itself? Were those experiences created by the brain? Or do they point to something science still cannot explain? Imagine waking up in a hospital bed after doctors had already begun fighting to bring you back. Then imagine telling them, "I remember everything." For decades, doctors dismissed many of these stories as dreams or hallucinations. But as more survivors of cardiac arrest described remarkably similar experiences, scientists realized something unexpected. These reports deserve to be studied, not because they proved life after death, but because they raise important questions about what the brain experiences during extreme medical emergencies. Researchers began interviewing thousands of patients from different countries, cultures, and religions. And despite their different backgrounds, many described surprisingly similar experiences. The most common near-death experiences. Some people reported a profound feeling of peace. Others described seeing an intense bright light. Some believed they were moving through a tunnel. Others said they experienced a rapid replay of important moments from their lives. A number of people even reported feeling as though they were observing medical staff working on their bodies from above. These experiences are collectively known as near-death experiences, NDEs. But here's the important part. Having an NDE does not mean someone was biologically dead forever. Every person who reported these experiences survived and regained circulation. Because of that, science cannot conclude that these experiences reveal what happens after permanent death. What does science think? Scientists have proposed several explanations. One idea is that as oxygen levels fall and carbon dioxide changes, brain networks responsible for vision, memory, and emotion may produce vivid experiences. Another possibility is that the brain releases chemicals during extreme stress that alter perception. Some researchers suggest that when the brain begins recovering after blood flow returns, memories formed during that period may later feel as though they occurred while the person was unconscious. There is evidence supporting parts of these ideas, but no single theory explains every reported near-death experience. That is why this field remains an active area of scientific research. The line between evidence and belief. This is where science reaches its limit. Science is incredibly powerful. It can explain how the heart beats, how neurons communicate, how memories are formed, and how the body changes after death. But science depends on observable, repeatable evidence. Questions like, does consciousness exist independently of the brain? Or, what happens to the soul? Cannot currently be answered through scientific experiments. That doesn't mean the answers don't exist. It simply means science has not established them. Around the world, different religions and philosophies offer different beliefs about what comes after death. Those beliefs are deeply meaningful to many people, but they are matters of faith rather than conclusions established by modern science. What we know for certain, after centuries of research, here is what science can confidently say. When the heart stops, blood circulation ends. Without oxygen, the brain rapidly loses its normal function. Over the following hours, the body undergoes predictable biological changes, including cooling, lividity, stiffness, and eventually decomposition. Near-death experiences are real experiences reported by many survivors, but their exact cause remains uncertain. And beyond that, the biggest question humanity has ever asked remains unanswered. Every person watching this video will one day face the same mystery. Kings, scientists, artists, explorers. Every civilization that has ever existed has searched for the answer. Yet despite all of our technology, all of our discoveries, and all of our knowledge, there is still a boundary that science has not crossed. Perhaps one day, we'll understand more than we do today. Or perhaps some mysteries are meant to remind us how much we still have left to learn. Until then, death remains one of the greatest unanswered questions in human history. Thanks for watching ToonTheory. If you enjoyed this science documentary and want more videos that separate facts from fiction, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments. What mystery should we explore next?